Hey, folks. Look, I know that everybody is jammed for time, and the people that are paying attention to this are running flat out as we get down to the wire in this election. So I'm going to keep this short and direct and to the point. My focus here today is on information that has come to light over the last week, but particularly the last few days, regarding an outfit which calls itself Field and Media Corp, and voter fraud and the submission of massive numbers of fraudulent voter registration forms. So up front, we have written about this twice now at And Magazine, which is a magazine that my wife and I run at Substack, andmagazine.substack.com. And the magazine is a free publication. It is not behind a paywall. So just up front, this has nothing to do with making money. I am referencing that because we have written two fairly lengthy articles filled with a lot of names and details and specifics. In other words, to the extent we've been able to in the last few days, we have done a lot of research on this. So I would recommend that when you're done listening to this video, you go to andmagazine.substack.com and pull up those articles. One of them went live today, and one of them, I believe, yesterday. They're both on voter fraud and PA, because that you can use those as reference documents, and they will have the names that you need and the details you need to be current. Again, not behind a paywall, so nobody, and there is no advertising on the site, so nobody's getting paid for you to use that. Okay, that's as a resource. What we have, in short, is this. We got this outfit called this Field Media Corp. It goes by a couple of different similar names, operating out of Arizona. These guys have been identified. There are at least 6 counties where we have now determined that significant numbers of fraudulent voters registration forms have been submitted. In the case of Lancaster County, as many as, and this is not necessarily the max, but so far they've identified could be 2,500 such forms in one county. Okay, happening around the state: Monroe County, York County, grand total of 6 that have all found that the same entity, Field and Media Corp, has been submitting these forms. There's no question about fraud. I mean, they have found that this is the same handwriting, and people claiming that they broke their hands, and that's why somebody has to fill out the forms for them. And when the counties run down the voter registrations, they find that social security numbers used are non-existent, and the addresses are like the middle of a cornfield, literally. And some of these people are dead, literally. Okay, so there's no question of misunderstanding here. The same entity out of Arizona operating across the state of Pennsylvania in at least, and that's the key thing here, at least 6 counties. Okay, these guys, Field and Media Corp, when you take a look at them, by the way, they were previously busted by Arizona for submitting fraudulent voter registration forms a year or 2 ago. So this is what they do. And you find that as soon as you do even basic research, and this is what's outlined in these articles that I referenced, you find these guys are tied into huge dark money leftist organizations. And what dark money means is people donate to these huge non-governmental organizations that theoretically masquerade as nonpartisan and charities. And then the money that gets poured in the top by individuals comes out of these organizations and is distributed without any reference to where it originated from. So if you want to, that's why it's called dark money, because some of it ends up handed to Field and Media Corp by some NGO, non-governmental organization, but it's really money that came from all the usual suspects on the Democratic side. And what they do is they use these mechanisms to hide who is really funding this, to make it impossible to see where the bucks are coming from. All the biggest players in this game, like Arabella, who many of you may know, are involved and behind Field and Media Corp. So at least 6 counties an outfit that's been busted for this before. The MO makes clear their intent to commit fraud. And behind this, huge, powerful interests. So we're not talking about some yahoos. We're not talking about isolated cases. We're not talking about a minor shtick. Anybody with any common sense would understand that as soon as we've got 6 counties where we found this, the next question ought to be, how many more places are they doing this? Beginning with, how much of this are they doing in the real population centers that the Democrats rely upon? In other words, if there's 2,500 false voter registrations in Lancaster, how many frigging false voter registrations are there in Philly or Pittsburgh or Erie? You guys know the list. The real problem is nobody on that, at that level, nobody who has the capacity to investigate at that level is doing anything. The campaign is doing nothing. And I've spoken to them directly. So they're treating this as if somehow the fact that Lancaster's on top of it answers the question for the state. They're ignoring the bigger picture. There is no indication that the state is investigating this and no indication the FBI has any interest. Keep in mind, they're busy busting Moms for Liberty, so they're a little pressed for time. Bottom line is this. We're down to a few days before the election. We have determined that we have 6 counties where significant numbers of false, fraudulent voter registration forms were submitted, and we don't have any idea whether these folks, the Field and Media Corp, have been active in other areas of the state. And none of the folks that should be digging into this are digging into it. So as usual, it comes down to you guys. We need to find out if Field and Media Corp is active in Pittsburgh, has been active in Pittsburgh, and how many such forms might have been submitted there, and in Erie, and as best we can in Philly, but certainly in all the counties around Philly, all the places where one would expect that these guys go. Again, you go to these 2 articles at andmagazine.substack.com, you will find the names and the references and the detail. We have to make sure that somebody is turning over these rocks and looking at this. By the way, Field and Media Corp just took their website offline. They just took it down. So they're in the wind, as we would say. They're vanishing and floating away. The question is, where have they been active? Everybody in every county watching this should look. The priority obviously needs to be major population centers where these kind of games get played. What's the situation in Philly and all the collar counties? What's the situation in Pittsburgh? What's the situation up in Erie, etc.? Okay, so as usual, you guys are the cavalry. Jump on this. Again, you go to andmagazine.substack.com. No money, advertising, or paywalls involved. You'll find 2 articles we've done over the last couple of days with all kinds of details and facts and names to assist you in this endeavor. And we're continuing to work the problem. So as we find more information that is relevant, we will keep putting it up online and I'll keep updating you. Okay. Appreciate it. As always, you guys are the ones that are going to win this thing. I will talk to you soon.